Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, August 25th, 2014. It is my mom's birthday today. So I don't know if we're going to do something for her today or this weekend. I know that'd be a little late, but what are you going to do? But I want to talk about something else. I was waiting to basically find out when the first day officially of college football season was going to start because I want to talk about something. I want to talk about something that I think I talked about before on camera, but I want to get more emphasis on it because there's more information that we have learned. Now, this year will mark the beginning of the 4-team college football playoff system. Now, I've read what this is going to consist of. You're going to have basically a committee, which is going to consist of a lot of former coaches, athletic directors, and so on. And the one thing that catches my eye about this is the fact that they don't have to watch the game to see or choose who should be in what positioning. I kind of find that a little weird, but okay. But here's the thing that I look at with this college football playoff system. Now, I know a lot of people are actually probably happy that this system is in effect and that this will determine a once and for all true national champion. But here's what I don't like about it. I don't like the fact that you're taking your premier bowl games, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, as well as I guess you can call it a premier game, the Cotton Bowl, and even the Peach Bowl, or the Chick-fil-A Bowl, whatever you want to call it. I don't like the fact that you're taking them and you're going to use them as a device to get this playoff system working. I just don't like that because to me, it takes away the prestige of the bowls themselves. Now, yes, whoever wins the Rose Bowl, because that's one of the bowl games used as a semifinal to the finals, the national championship, basically it's used as a playoff spot. Now, yes, whoever wins that becomes the Rose Bowl champion and advances on to the national championship. Okay, fine. But when you think about it, it takes away a little bit of that prestige. It really does. Because you're regulating it to not just a playoff game, but you're regulating it to almost like, well, basically that's what you're doing. You're regulating it to a playoff game. And you're regulating the status of the Rose Bowl to just a playoff stadium. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. You're doing the same with the Sugar Bowl. There's prestige there. There's history there. Then you're going to rotate it. And then you're going to go with Orange Fiesta, Cotton, Chick-fil-A. Fine. Then you're going to rotate it again. You're going to rotate and 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 rotate. I just don't like it. I mean, next year, I think it's the orange and the Fiesta and the Chick-fil-A, and then the following year it's the orange and the cotton. I just don't like it. I mean, look, I have nothing against wanting to crown a national champion, wanting to basically get rid of the arguments and say, okay, these are the teams that are qualified to be in the playoffs. These are the teams that have proven that they are worthy of one of them being the national champion. I totally understand that and I respect that. I just don't like the fact that the NCAA and its college football playoff committee is going to be using a lot of the established and elite bowl games and sites as playoff sites in playoff games. I just don't like it. I mean, if I'm them, I take an example from Division 1AA or whatever they are. I take an example from the FCS series, the football championship series, like I said, with the, what was it, 1A or 1AA? I take an example from them, from the smaller colleges that have the playoffs, that know how to run a playoff system. I would have the playoff games be hosted by the higher seeds at their home stadiums, and then have the national championship game at the site that you designated it to be at. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. I would designate it in that fashion so that way you could at least continue to treat the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Bowl as the elite bowl games that you have made them out to be. You know, I don't go and do this kind of situation where you're basically, in my opinion, taking away the prestige. Now, yes, like I said earlier, perhaps whoever wins at the Sugar and the Rose this year, yeah, they're going to be the bowl champions and they'll advance to see who becomes national champion. But basically what you're doing then is you're taking away that prestige of saying, hey, we were the Rose Bowl champions, but yeah, we're going to trade it in because we want to be the national champion. And you might say, Brian, that's not taking away prestige, it's adding to it. And that might be true, but still, I feel it would be better if they went and took an example from the FCS and let the higher ranked teams host the semifinals, then let the teams that get to the national championship, to the finals, the national championship, go to the venue that has been chosen. Go with that. That's what I would do. But I know I'm not them and they're not me. Now, apparently, one of the other things that people say is a benefit out of this is there's a lot of mid-major conferences that will, well, benefit from it. That if any team from one of these mid-major conferences is kind of in that category to possibly go into the playoffs, but yet don't get it, they can be chosen to play in a bowl game that for that year is not part of the rotation yet of being a playoff game. And this includes conferences like Mid-America, the Sun Belt, Mountain West, MAC. Oh, Mid-America is MAC. What am I talking about? American, you name it. They are all eligible. Yeah, they are all eligible. So think about it this way. You could have a team like the Sun Belt's Georgia State. Yeah, the Sun Belt's Georgia State. They can end up winning the conference this year, having an impressive record, and yet it's not impressive enough to get them into the tournament. But yet it's impressive enough to, let's say, the Orange Bowl goes, okay, Georgia State, we'll take you guys. Because they would be among that status, from what I understand. And I'll provide a link down below so you can read about this. But to me, that's basically what it is. It's like, okay, the committee's going to choose the 4 teams that will play each other in the playoffs. And then the rest of the bowl games are done. And well, basically, the committee then selects who goes into what bowl games afterwards. All from I think, what is it, a pick 6 kind of deal or something? A get 6, a get 5 kind of deal. I can't think of the name right now. But basically, it's the teams that are left over. Now, they have mentioned that when certain bowl games are not part of the playoff rotation, they will go back to being traditional bowl games. So, for example, next year, not this year, but next year, when the Rose Bowl is back to being just a regular Rose Bowl, it'll feature, depending on whether or not they're in the playoffs or not, it will feature the Pac-12 number 1 against the Big Ten number 1, just like it always has. The Fiesta will get the Big 12 representative, if they're not put into the system, against the SEC representative. Same with the Orange Bowl. The ACC representative will face an at-large representative. And so on and so forth. I know it sounds confusing. Heck, it's confusing for me. But I, I just think, honestly, they need to rethink their strategy with this system. Now, again, I can understand that they did this because they don't want to have any more controversy with who should be in the national championship and who shouldn't be. I've got news for those people. Honestly, I've got news for them. I've got news for them. It doesn't matter how good your playoff system's going to be. It doesn't matter if you start out with 4, and as we go for the next 10 seasons, you expand to maybe 16, 8, maybe even 24. It ain't going to matter. I'll tell you why. Because there's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be controversy, and that controversy is always going to lead to something. It's always going to lead to something else. It's going to lead to people arguing whether or not the idea was good. It's going to lead to people asking for changes to the system. It's going to probably go as far as people asking for the original system to be brought back. That's probably what it's going to lead towards. It's going to lead to people demanding the college playoff system go back to just traditional bowl games and AP polls and stuff like that. Not saying that would happen, but I'm not going to be surprised. And I will not be surprised that the controversy starts happening after this year. Because believe me, there will be controversy. I can already feel it. I can already see it. Let's say, for example, you have your national champion, Florida State, as your number 1 team, your overall number 1 team in the tournament. And let's say they face the number 4 team, which is, I'll throw a team out there. Let's say by chance it's a mid-American, it's a mid-conference school. Let's say Florida State's number 4 opponent, the number 4 seed, is Fresno State. Let's say that. You put Fresno State against Florida State in one of the playoff games. And let's say something happens. Let's say Florida State looks like they've scored the winning touchdown. It's a tight game. Florida State's got the touchdown, and it's clear that the guy's got a foot in, but yet got a foot in as soon as he's got the ball in his hand and he falls forward. And as he falls forward, yet he has the ball in his hand, it comes loose, but it's in all indication already a touchdown. But after he falls forward into the goal line, the ball comes loose. And then they call it no. And they say no. And they say no. Well, some people might say, yes, it was. And then it gets over, and then there's a review. Point is, folks, the point is that could happen. And then let's say they review it. Because according to the rules, the officials have to say in the review. So let's say they review it. They review it, and then they say, nope, didn't score the touchdown, but yet it's clear as day he did. What does that tell you? That tells you controversy has happened. That controversy has allowed Fresno State to beat the national champions in the playoffs, in the first ever playoffs. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying that it's bound to happen. You cannot deny that. There have been professional playoffs, if you will, NFL playoffs, that have had similar controversial endings. So if you think controversy is not going to, arise out of this whole entire situation, you're wrong. And so is the people that put the system together, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen, believe me. And I'm not going to be surprised that we'll be not even a year or maybe 2 years in, and there are going to be fans demanding it goes back to the old system again. And I guarantee you, if that was to happen, I guarantee you the community would be like, okay, we'll just scrap the rest of the idea, go back to the old system, but we'll take a few of the tweaks or for a few of the rules that we've placed into the system, and we'll put it back, and we'll put it into the revival of the BCS system. For example, one of the rules they have is that those that want to be eligible from the big conferences have to face legit opponents. They cannot face smaller schools. They cannot face schools they could literally run over. They got to face legit tough opponents to prove their worth. And that would be something they would keep if they wanted to go, if a situation arose to where they'd have to go back to a BCS system or a system similar to it. But let me kind of look here. I'm trying to read here exactly what this is about. It says, and this is off of Wikipedia, and they've got a website. It says collegefootballplayoff.com. It states, and I quote, "The College Football Playoff, CFP, is the system in American college football that will determine a national champion for the NCAA Division I Football Bowl Subdivision, FBS, beginning in the 2014 season, which is now. Under the playoff, 4 teams play in 2 semifinal games, with the winners advancing to the new college football championship game. 6 bowl games, the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and Peach Bowl, rotate as hosts for the semifinal games." That's the one thing I don't like about it. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. "The rotation is set on a 3-year cycle with the following pairings. This year, Rose and Sugar. Next year, Orange and Cotton. And then the following year, Fiesta Peach. The 2 semifinals plus the other 4 top-tier bowls are marketed as the New Year's 6, with 3 bowls played per day, typically on consecutive days that include New Year's Day. The championship game is played on the first Monday that is 6 or more days after the semifinals. The game's venue is selected based on bids submitted by cities, similar to the Super Bowl or the NCAA Final Four, with AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, hosting the first title game on January 12, 2015. The winner is awarded a new trophy instead of the AFCA Crystal Football, which had been regularly presented after the championship game since the 1990s. Officials wanted a new trophy that was unconnected with the previous championship systems. The new College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy is sponsored by Dr. Pepper, which paid an estimated $35 million for the sponsorship rights throughout 2020. The 26.5-inch high, 35-pound trophy was unveiled on July 14th of this year, last month. Okay, here we go. Unlike college football's title system used from 1998 to 2013, the BCS, the new format does not use computer rankings or polls to select the participants. Rather, a committee of 13 experts will select and seed the teams. The playoff system is the first time the top-level NCAA football championship is determined by a bracket competition. The new format is a +1 system, an idea which became popular as an alternative to the BCS after the 2003 and 2004 seasons ended in controversy. Yeah, and they think this is going to end that? I don't think so. The playoff system is contracted to be in place through at least the playoff system is contracted to be in place through at least the 2025 season per an agreement with ESPN, which owns the rights to broadcast all the games. The network reportedly paid $7.3 billion overall for the 12-year TV rights. Yeah, ESPN, no offense, guys. I respect and understand why you're doing it. But if I'm ESPN, I might be ready to just be hosting regular bowl games in the future again. The Selection Committee. The first college football playoff selection committee was announced on October 16th last year. This group consists of 13 members who generally serve 3-year terms throughout some initial selections. This group consists of 13 members who generally serve 3-year terms, although some initial selections will serve terms both shorter and longer than 3 years to achieve a rotation of members. The inaugural members of the selection committee are, here we go, Jeff Long, athletic director from Arkansas. He is the chairman from SEC. he is there to 2018. Barry Alvarez, Wisconsin Athletic Director, Big Ten, there to 2017. Michael C. Gold, former Air Force Academy Superintendent, he's there to 2016. Pat Hayden, U.S. Athletic Director from the Pac-12, he's there to 2016. Tom Juriston, former NCAA Executive Vice President, he's there to 2018. Oliver Luck, West Virginia Athletic Director, Big 12, he's there to 2017. Archie Manning, former NFL and Ole Miss quarterback, he is there to 2017. Tom Osborne, former Nebraska coach and athletic director, Big 10, he's there to 2016. Dan Rakovich, Klinsman athletic director, ACC, he's there to 2018. Carles Rice, former U.S. Secretary of State in Stanford. Rice. She's on it? Former U.S. Secretary of State in Stanford Provost is there to 2017. Mike Trageson, former Big East Commissioner, the American Conference, he is there to 2016. Steve Weiberg, former USA Today reporter, he is there to 2018. And Tyrone Rillingham, former Stanford, Notre Dame, Washington coach, he is there to 2018. It says one, because it mentions one here. Let's see. It says something about a one. The committee members include one current athletic director from each of the 5 major conferences: ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC. Other members are former coaches, players, athletic directors, and administrators, plus a retired member of the media, Steve Weisberg. The goal was for the panel to consist mostly of current athletic directors, former coaches, and a third group of other voters, excluding current conference commissioners, coaches, and media members. During the selection process, organizers said they wanted the committee to be geographically balanced. Conference commissions submitted lists totaling more than 100 names for which to select the final committee members. The selection of Condoleezza Rice, a former U.S. Secretary of State and Stanford University Provost, was met with some backlash within the sport and the media. Critics questioned her qualification, citing lack of football experience and gender. Well, I think maybe the reason she was brought in is here's somebody that could balance out the situation, because when you take a look at the athletic directors there, I think someone is going to have to basically step in and say, look, just because your conference has got good teams, guess what? Some of these smaller conferences and mid-major conferences have some good teams, and they have undefeated records. These teams, part of these mid or small conferences, so let's give them a chance. That's why I think she was brought in. All right, voting. The committee picks 4 teams for the playoff and seed them, plus select the pairings in the other 4 bowl games, subject to certain restrictions and tie-ins. The group will release its top 25 rankings weekly on Tuesdays 7 times during the season, with the first release on October 28, 2014, and the final rankings on Sunday, December 17th of this year. The group, which meets at the Gaylord Texan Hotel in Great Bend, Texas, will reportedly meet in person up to 10 total times a year. A team's strength of schedule will be one of the most preeminent considerations for the committee in making its selections. Other factors that the committee will weigh are conference championships, team records, and head-to-head results, plus other points such as injuries and weather. Unlike the BCS system, the AP poll coaches poll, Harris poll, and computer rankings will not be used to make the selections. Advanced statistics and metrics from ESPN are expected to be submitted to the committee. Though like other analytics, they will have no formal role in the decision. Committee members will not be required to attend games. That's what I was trying to explain earlier when I said they won't have to watch all the games. Yeah, I think that's a mistake. Long, the chairman, said the panel considered less frequent rankings, but ultimately decided on a weekly release. Quote, that's what the fans have been accustomed to, and we felt it would leave a void in college football without a ranking for several weeks. He also noted, early on, there was some talk that we would go into a room at the end of the season and come out with a top four, but that didn't last long. In analyzing this change in thinking, Stuart Mandel of Sports Illustrated commented, I quote, the whole point of the selection committee was to replicate the simple C horse race nature of top 25 polls, where teams only move up if someone above them loses, with a more deliberative evaluation method. Now the playoff folks are going to try to do both, addressing the pecking order nature of traditional polls. George Scruton of USA Today wrote, quote, if it actually works as intended, we could see volatile swings from week to week, with lower-ranked teams moving ahead of higher-ranked teams without either team losing, a rarity in the traditional polls. Both Long and Bill Hancock, the CFP executive director, say they expect that to happen. The committee's voting method will use multiple ballots, similar to the NCAA basketball tournament selection process. From a larger initial pool of teams, the group will take numerous votes on successive tiers of teams, considering 6 at a time, and coming to a consensus on how they should be ranked. Then repeating the process with the next tier of teams. Discussion and debate will happen at each voting step. All votes will be by secret ballot, and committee members will not make the ballots public. Each week's ranking process will begin anew, with no rate given to the previous week's selections. Committee members who are currently employed or financially by school or have family members who have current financial are not allowed to vote. Wait, hold on, let me see if it says basically all committee members must have ties to certain NCAA institutions, but the committee decided to ignore those ties in the usual requirements. Quote, we just boiled it down to where we felt this group was fit to its high integrity and would differ from those past relationships. All right, impact on scheduling, and I'm sorry if this is long. Due to the increased emphasis on strength of schedule under the new playoff systems, teams will consider playing more challenging opponents during the non-conference portion of the schedule. Some teams have traditionally played 3 or 4 weak non-conference opponents, but wins against such low-level competition are likely to impress the committee. For teams on the cusp of making the playoff 4, quote, I think one of the first things the committee will look at is strength of schedule, said selector Oliver Luck. Teams in the Big 12 and Pac-12 play 9 conference games on those 12-game schedules. They'll only have flexibility in choosing their opponents in the 3 non-league games. Opponents in conference games cannot be replaced with tougher competition. Some programs are opting to increase their national media exposure by scheduling high-profile matchups at neutral sites on weeknight and on weeknights garnering primetime exclusivity. The Big Ten plays 8 games in 2014 and 15, but will move to a 9-game league schedule in 2016. In response to the new playoff system, the SEC considered increasing its conference schedule from 8 to 9, but many in the SEC, which enjoys a reputation as the toughest conference in the country, were concerned that an extra interconference game could result in poor records for the league's top teams. Some officials favored a stronger out-of-league schedule, which would likely impress the committee, instead of an increase in conference games. In April 2014, the league voted to mandate that all SEC teams must play a major foe, ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, or Pac-12, in its non-conference slate beginning in 2016. In 2014, in this season, basically, 9 of the 14 teams are scheduled to play one major conference opponent and 3 lower level opponents, which includes one FCS school. 4 teams do not face a major foe, and 1 team will play 2 major opponents. The SEC, whose teams also play 8 conference games, plus Notre Dame once every 3 years, also consider moving to a 9-game conference. However, the league opted to stay at 8 plus Notre Dame model, stipulating instead that teams would have to play 1 major school in the non-conference slates beginning in 2017, which could include other ACC schools being considered non-conference. The Notre Dame game would also field this requirement. Despite the push to increase schedule strength across football, some ACC coaches preferred the scheduling flexibility availability with fewer permanent fixtures on a team slate. Opinion was split among league athletic directors on moving to a 9-game schedule prior to the vote. SEC's expansion to a 9-game schedule would limit the ACC's opportunity to play major non-conference opponents. Whew! Hold on for a second. I'm out of breath here. All right, continuing on here. Bowl selections. The college football playoff, easy for me to say, the college football playoff will use a 4-team bracket to determine the national champion. 6 bowl games will rotate as hosts for the semifinal games. The 2 bowl rotation is set on a 3-year cycle. I mentioned this earlier. With the following pairings: Rose Sugar this year, Orange Cotton next year, Fiesta Peach 2 years from now. I guess they're going back to peach now. The selection committee will seed and pair the top 4 teams, plus assign teams to at-large bowls, Cotton, Fiesta, and Peach, in the years when they do not host semifinals. The 4-team playoff will pit the number 1 ranked team against number 4 and number 2 against number 3. The selection committee will seed the 2 semifinal games to prevent the top seed from playing in a quote-unquote road environment. There will be no limits on the number of teams per conference, a change from previous BCS rules. However, some non-semifinal bowl selections will be based on conference tie-ins, similar to the BCS's automatic qualifier berths. A team from the quote-unquote group of 5 mid-major conferences is guaranteed a spot in one of the 6 bowls. In years when the bowls are not part of the playoff bracket, the highest-ranked non-playoffs teams from the following conferences or groups will be selected, as follows: Rose Bowl, Big Ten number 1 against Pac-12 number 1. Sugar Bowl. Okay, this is what I got a little wrong earlier, but Sugar Bowl, SEC number 1 versus Big 12 number 1. Orange Bowl, ACC number 1 versus SEC number 2, or Big 10 number 2, or Notre Dame. Cotton Bowl, at-large or group of 5, committee selection. Fiesta Bowl, at-large or group of 5, committee selection. And the same with the Peach Bowl, at-large or group of 5, committee selection. So seeing as though this year the Sugar Bowl and the Rose will be part of the semifinals, the at-large, the Orange Bowl, Cotton, Fiesta, and Peach will be getting teams from different conferences, and at-large bids as well. Additional selection criteria. The highest-ranked champion from the group of 5 mid-major conferences, American Athletic Conference, Conference USA, MAC, Mountain West, and Sun Belt, is guaranteed a berth if the group's top team is not in the playoff. The remaining 5 at-large bids will be determined by committee rankings. If the Big Ten or SEC champion is available for a non-playoff bowl in a year when the Rose and Sugar Bowls are hosting semifinals, that team will appear in either the Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, or Peach Bowl, but not the Orange Bowl. In the Orange Bowl, the SEC and Big Ten are guaranteed at least 3 appearances during the 8 non-playoff years, while Notre Dame can only appear a maximum of twice. In non-playoff years, if the Orange Bowl matchup creates a regular season rematch for the ACC representative, the bowl may choose to skip over the prescribed opponent from the SEC Big Ten Notre Dame group and select the next highest-ranked team from the group. The team that was rejected would be placed in one of the 3 at-large bowls, if it meets ranking standards. In years when the Orange Bowl is a national semifinal, the ACC champion will play in the Fiesta or Peach Bowls if it is not selected for the playoff. In choosing the pairings for the 4 non-playoff bowls, the committee will try to create the most compelling matchups possible, quote-unquote most compelling matchups possible, while taking into account geographic and team rematches from both the regular season and recent bowls. Okay, playoffs. Okay, easy for me to say. Playoff rotation. These bowl games and venues will host college football playoff semi and championship games. This year, the semifinal game areas are, or the semifinal bowl games are, Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl, January 1st. National title game, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, January, 12th of this year. Or next year, January 12th, 2015. The following season after this one, Orange Bowl and Cotton Bowl will be semifinal areas, and that's in the 2015-16 season. And the University of Phoenix Stadium will host the national championship. And the semifinal games will be on December 31st, New Year's Eve, 2015. Then, Fiesta and Peach Bowl will be semifinal games in 2016 and 17 season on December 31st of 2016, and Raymond James Stadium in Tampa will host the national championship. And again, it just rotates from there. Okay, let's see. All right, it talks about how, they selected just like Super Bowl and all that. It says 4 cities submitted. Okay, here we go. 4 cities submitted bids for the 2016 game. Glendale, Jacksonville, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and 6 metropolitan areas vied for the 2017 game. Levi Stadium in San Francisco Bay Area, Viking Stadium in Minneapolis, San Antonio, Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa. Host selections were announced in December 2013 with Glendale winning for 2016 and Tampa winning for 2017. Okay, so basically that's the whole playoff system, the new college football playoff system in a nutshell. And believe me, it is kind of a nutshell, because how can you not have controversy with that? I mean, take a look at the athletic directors. Look at the conferences they're from. I mean, if you cannot have controversy and stuff with that, I don't know what. But I'll provide a link down to this Wikipedia article on it, as well as the collegefootball.com area, and let you guys see for yourself and what you guys think. But honestly, I can understand why they're doing it. I respect for why they're doing it. But I just don't see this ending any of the years it's around without controversy happening. And I guarantee you this, it will not last to 2025. It will not last to 2025. It will not. And you know why? Because I have a feeling that it's going to go back to being the way it was. It's going to probably keep in some of these rules that they've added for this new system, but it's going to go back to the way it was, folks. I have this feeling. It's a feeling I cannot fight. You know, I've recorded college football games. I have watched college football games, but this is something I cannot deny. I just feel it. I just feel it's going to be something that's eventually going to blow up in the face, and I think they know it. I think they know it. I think they realize that with that committee they have, they are in serious trouble. The only positive I see there is Condoleezza Rice. Because anytime people talk about this woman, it's positive. It's nothing but good things as far as I've heard, as far as I know. But with that said, all I can say is they better not screw it up, because if they screw it up the first year it's out, people are going to question it. People are going to ask for change. They're going to ask for this. They're going to ask for that. And you know that as well as I do. You know that as well as I do. So let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Video responses are greatly appreciated. And I will talk to you all later. But folks, believe me, this system, they think it's going to end controversy. They are dead wrong. I think it's just going to make it even more controversial.